Hello, hello, bosoms. Yes, it is I, the conspicuous moo. And I'd just like to revisit Total WoW because it's had a few updates recently, and we're going into the new year and we're getting a whole bunch of new content. We've got a whole bunch of class changes that are incoming as well, so there's a lot going on. And, you know, for people who don't know what Total WoW is, it is basically a vanilla server. It's vanilla plus. You know, they're taking vanilla and they're adding more stuff onto it and removing some stuff as well. To sort of extend the life of vanilla in general, and you know, they're doing a top-notch job, so I'll be very happy to walk you through some of the things that are going on right now. So let's get cracking. Now, a very handy website called turtlecensus.org has been taking note of the numbers in general for Total WoW, so people can get an idea of what the server's like before they even get onto it. So I will leave a link in the description so you can get a general idea of where your class and faction are in terms of numbers. Now, as of December 31st, there are 1,065 level 60s currently active on the server. According to the website, it removes the inactive players after a certain amount of time. Even though that time is not specified, that's quite a lot of 60s to be knocking around, so that's quite nice. In terms of class composition, it's relatively well balanced throughout. I mean, you have your usual suspects, hunters and warriors are pretty much leading the way as normal. But you know, I would have expected slightly more rogues, although this is technically an RP PvE server. There are quite a few PvP elements, which we'll get into in a minute. And there are, you know, I would have expected slightly less paladins, but they have made a couple of changes to paladins, and there are more coming, and we'll also get to that in just a minute. And in terms of races, it's clear that High Elves have been a hit, and are probably why there's more Alliance than Horde. It's about a 60-40 balance. But because of the nature of the server, that doesn't really matter. That said, you know, we clearly need more gnomes to join us, and I think goblins are exactly where they really should be and stay. Now, as of, you know, a few days ago, early 2022 now, the denizens of Total WoW are now experiencing the new patch called Mysteries of Azeroth. Now, there is so much in this content patch that I couldn't possibly cram it into a video, so I'll just give you a few hand-picked highlights that I found along the way. So, Dwarf Mages and Undead Hunters are now live, so, you know, if you feel like a slightly different way of playing, then you now have those options. There are new boat paths and flight paths as well. The flight paths are mainly there to basically connect up some of the new areas that have been added in this patch. Some of the new boat lines, I think the most notable one for me and for many Alliance players over the years, is that the Menethil to Orbadine boat has been sunk by unknown forces, and that boat is now going to go from Stormwind to Orbadine as well. And so, you know, that kind of cuts out that classic Night Elf run of death, you know, when you're being chomped by double question mark crocodiles all the way down to Ironforge. So, you know, I think that's a bit of a shame. That was a bit of a rite of passage for a lot of people. It definitely was for me. But, you know, that's one of the changes, because Stormwind Harbour has been added as well. Then there are new zones. So Tirisfal Uplands is, I think, a 14 to 20 zone that has been added. Now, it's obviously got a slightly Horde bent, but there are some Alliance areas as well. Sparkwater Port, I think, is the new home of the goblins. It's a big goblin port anyway, so it looks very pretty. The Scarlet Enclave, we are being pointed in the general direction that there is going to be a Scarlet Crusade raid later on in Total WoW, so they're starting to add a few more elements of that. And there have been revamps of some of the older zones that probably needed a bit of work, like Ashara, and the Swamp of Sorrows has had a few things added as well. There are 4 new dungeons in this patch. The Crescent Grove is in Ashenvale. It's sort of Stormwind Library sort of level, so that's very nice. That's a leveling one. We don't really get to those. There are 360 dungeons as well. So we have Stormwind Vault. You can finally look in and find out what's behind there. Karazhan Crypts, which obviously is in Karazhan, and the Caverns of Time have reopened. They've added a whole bunch of new Caverns of Time stuff, and Black Morass is of TBC fame, is now available for the 60s as well. And they're currently being rated as slightly more difficult than Dire Maul. For the PvPers, there is a new battleground called Sunnyglade Valley, which apparently takes you back to like the First War era. It looks like a very, very classic human settlement that's been beset by, you know, the forces of the Horde. So, you know, if that sort of thing flicks your switch, got pretty good reviews so far. The goblins have had new animations and voice lines. For those of you who are strange enough to actually want to play goblins, you know, they have had a number of improvements made to them. And of course there are hundreds of new quests and items and NPCs and rare mobs, and there's another world boss as well. So, you know, it is truly amazing the amount of work this little passion project Turtle WoW gets put into it. So I'll leave a link to the forum thread for the whole patch notes in the description as well. Now, in terms of larger gameplay, we used to have a glyph called the Glyph of Diplomacy, and it was something you could pick up on the starting areas and would enable you to do cross-faction communication and run dungeons together, that sort of thing. That's just now standard, it's built in, so we're all friends, we're all hugging together, no matter what creed, colour, shape, or how many horns we have. Unfortunately, that does not apply to, you know, just the general factions. You know, just because everyone has the Glyph of Diplomacy automatically now, do not assume that you can just walk into Theramore as a Tauren and not be made into a steak sandwich for the guards. It's not going to end well. The Glyph of War is for real war enthusiasts. I mean, you really have to like your world PvP for this one. It basically flags you permanently. There's no way to remove it, so you just opt for the Glyph of War. And it's permanent. You get to 60 and you're still flagged. You know, you just flagged forever. So, you know, if you're into your world PvP on a major level, then you can run around and you can be attacked by anyone, of course, because, you know, there aren't any factions anymore. Everyone's a friend, apart from the other people who have the Glyph of War and are chasing after you with a big axe. So, have fun with that. Hardcore mode is still going strong. I've seen a couple of immortals, or people who've hit 60 in hardcore mode. They get the immortal title. I've seen a couple of those in chat, and lots of congratulations as well. So well done to those people. There was a rumour that there's a gnome who leveled to 60 naked. I cannot confirm this, but if that is true, that is awesome. And then there's my favourite personal touch, because I'm in the Newcomers Guild, which is huge. You know, there's got all the new starters who aren't hardcore players basically get put into this guild so they can all ask questions and figure stuff out. And one of the new features is that you can just turn your XP off just by right-clicking in Portrait and going, nah, I'm done, and then twink for a bit. Yeah. If that's what you want to do, then you can absolutely do it, and it's so simple, costs you nothing. Now, one of the interesting things that are coming up in Total WoW on January the 7th is the application of class changes. Now, this is always going to be a highly contentious area, and it's going to be rather a bit of a challenge to see if they can get it all correct. I will leave a link in the forum post for the description on what they're planning to do. There are a number of changes. I mean, I automatically look at the tank changes. So, you know, not a lot there for warriors, but definitely there for druids. The ability to berserk and fear break is going to be an interesting thing for bear tanks. And consecrate is now baseline at level 20 for paladins, and it's had its potency. See, this is a Final Fantasy thing. It's had its potency increased. So, you know, they've become more viable tanks as well. So, you know, there's a lot of little steps towards making, you know, the traditional vanilla designs where you just, if you're an Oomkin, forget it. You're not going anywhere. You know, that's all changing. So it's a very interesting time for Total WoW, and it's a very good time to join up. There's lots of new things to collect, and there's new adventures, new pets, and you know, all the dungeons and everything else. So, you know, if you are interested in a different flavour of vanilla than the standard issue, this is a good time to be dipping your toes in, to be honest. I will also leave a link to the Discord in the description, because that's always a good place to start. They've got tons of information on there. They've got, you know, all the guides, all the different class channels, different language channels, guilds, trading, you name it, it's on there. So I will leave that in the description box as well, and yeah, I hope to see you in Total WoW. Happy adventuring, turtles, and I'll see you in there too, but until I see you again, I am the Conspicuous Moo, and the Dark Shore with you.